Hello, OneTeamGov Global. My name's Robbie and I'm a civil servant based up in the northeast. In 2009 I joined the civil service in DWP, moved over to HMRC in 2017. I'm based up in the northeast of England, which for those of you who don't know the geography of England that well, we are basically like the Starks. South of the wall but pretty far north and occasionally quite cold. So unfortunately I'm not at conference, but I really wanted to be involved in it, and I really wanted to talk about something that is dear to my heart, which is kind of about the perception of the civil service and what it means to be a civil servant. Because the question I get asked whenever I tell someone I work in the civil service, the question everyone always wants to know is, what is a civil servant? And a lot of people always start with the same thing. Does it mean that you are James Bond? Do you wear a suit and drink martinis and drive fast cars and disarm nuclear bombs even though you are not qualified to do so? And I say, well, yes, I do wear a suit, but I don't drink martinis and I don't drive fast cars. And I hope that I would be sensible enough to point people in the right direction of the person with the expertise to disarm the nuclear bomb. But what I wanted to do was, with 2 post-it notes, 1, 2, and 3 stories, tell my version of what I think a civil servant is. So, here goes. These post-it notes are too sticky, which is slightly aggravating. Right, here we are. So the first thing is, what does a civil servant do? Well, the civil service has to represent the society that it's part of. So in the present day, society is like this, but in the future, society might be like this. So therefore, in fact, it might even be there. So therefore, what we need to do is we need to learn, grow, and evolve up to meet the needs of society in the future. But one of the things that I've noticed about the civil service and about great civil servants is that actually we want to learn faster than we need to. And the reason that we want to learn faster than we need to is because that way, rather than being ready for some distant future, just at the point that we reach that there, we're actually ready for it in the not so distant future, so we can be prepared and deliver better for the people who are affected by our services. And there are some great things in the civil service. I am particularly proud to be a member of the operational delivery profession, and doing those qualifications and having that investment means that we can get there faster. So when someone says, what is a civil servant to me, the first thing I would say is that a civil servant learns and evolves to meet the need of the society that they're part of. The second thing I think civil servants are, well, actually, let me tell you a little story. So this story is quite a sad story. This is the story of a lady called Kitty Genovese. Now, Kitty Genovese lived in New York in the 1960s, and one day as she was walking home past some apartment blocks in New York, she was attacked and she was killed. Now, at the time, in 1960s New York, that wasn't particularly uncommon, but the unique thing about the story of Kitty Genovese was that although the attack took place outside a number of apartment blocks, and there were reported to be a number of witnesses, unfortunately no one rang the police because they all thought someone else was going to do it. Now that's fairly common. It's called bystander syndrome. But in the civil service, we can't afford to be bystanders. we have a duty. We have a duty to serve. We have a duty to intervene even when other people aren't. When something is going wrong, to call it out, to face up to it, to be the lone voice sometimes. And that is what I think the best civil servants do, certainly the ones that I've seen. And I've seen a lot of people who do that. So, what's a civil servant? Civil servant learns and evolves, yes, but also a civil servant is brave. Because we need to be. So the last story I want to tell is the story of the Wayne family. Now the Wayne family were very wealthy, and they lived on a hill on the verge of a city, not dissimilar to 1963 or 1964 New York, a crime-ridden city, but they lived in a nice mansion up on the hill. And it's quite a famous story, the Bruce Wayne story, because sadly Bruce Wayne's parents were killed when he was young. And he grew up with all this wealth up on this mansion outside of the city. And he could have chosen to do nothing. He could have chosen to live, maybe go hot air ballooning around the world. Who knows? Could have done any number of things. But rather than do that, he chose to take the best technology that was available, make sure that he could be the best version of himself to train. And he became something that was needed for the town, for the city that he was part of. He figured out a way to serve them. So you can keep your Spider-Men and Supermen, the people who, look into their powers. Give me a man who has no superpowers, but chooses to make the best of what he's been given. And when I think about civil servants, we're not silly walking, bowler hat wearing, stuck in the past people that sometimes we're made out to be. We are people who choose every day to come into work to serve society. We could get other jobs, we could work in other professions, but we don't. We choose to help people. We choose to be Batman. Each and every one of us, every single day. So when someone asks you what's a civil servant, or what do you do, and you say, I'm just a civil servant, just. Forget that word just. You're not just anything. You choose. You choose to be a civil servant, and that means that you choose to be Batman. And finally, my last point is that if you are lucky enough, if you have the privilege of leading people in the civil service, if you have the privilege of having a team, as well as being Batman yourself, never forget that if you need help, if you need support, if you want to get the best out of the people that you are working with, sometimes all you need to do is shine a symbol up in the sky, ask for their help, and they will bring the very best of themselves, because you are surrounded by Batmen and women. So, a very merry unconference to you. See you at the next one.